Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I know that Valentine's Day has come and gone, but I was still feeling in a very romantic mood and I was reminiscing about some of my favorite couples in books that I've read. I feel like there are a lot of iconic couples in the bookish community. We have Rhys and Feyre from the ACOTAR series, Audrey, Rose, and Thomas from Stalking Jack the Ripper, Mal and Alina from the Grisha trilogy, but I wanted to share 5 of my favorite, maybe not so popular couples or couples from books that aren't as popular in the community. So just very quickly before we actually get into my favorite pairings, I just wanted to put out a spoiler alert. Obviously, some of my favorite couples in the books that I'm going to mention, it doesn't really happen until the end. You know, it's kind of up in the air when you're reading it. So I will list the books below that I'm going to be talking about in case you don't want to be spoiled, haven't read it yet, but it's on your TBR. I will leave the books listed below just in case, but this is just going to be an overall spoiler alert for couple pairings in books. So first up, I have to mention Naomi and Nicholas from You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. This is actually my favorite book ever. It is the favorite book. So when this book starts out, Naomi and Nicholas are engaged, set to be married. I mean, I'm pretty sure their wedding is like months away at the beginning of this book. But the issue is that they have fallen out of love with each other and are now in a silent, not so secret battle to force the other one to call off the wedding first. And the reason that Naomi and Nicholas are one of my favorite book couples is because in this book we get to watch them fall in love with each other again, and that story, that journey is just so appreciated by me. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I see a lot of myself in Naomi, which I don't know if I am proud to say that or not. I do think our girl grows a lot by the end of the novel, but I see my husband in Nicholas in the way that sometimes we just really clash, but there is so much love at the center. We sometimes forgot to appreciate the little things the way that we love each other. I just love their journey. I love getting to watch them go from enemies to friends to lovers again. Next up is a YA contemporary romance, and that is Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzales. I can't remember when I read this book, but I'm pretty sure it was a favorite of that year. The couple pairing in this book that is my favorite is Darcy and Alexander. Again, for some reason, I have a thing for enemies to lovers couples. If they are enemies to lovers, I will most likely fall in love with them and be rooting for them 24/7. So Perfect on Paper is about Darcy, who runs an anonymous love counseling advice business out of Locker 89. No one knows her identity, even her best friend. When Alexander finds out that Darcy is behind Locker 89, Darcy is very determined to do whatever it takes to keep him from revealing her secret. And the only thing that Alexander asks in return for his silence is kind of one-on-one coaching to help him get back with his ex-girlfriend. So that's kind of how their story kicks off. Darcy absolutely cannot stand Alexander at the beginning of the book. She thinks he's stuck up and bratty. Alexander really doesn't think much of Darcy, like he could not care less about her. I think what I enjoyed about them and what made me feel so fuzzy inside is that I don't think they don't realize when they start falling for each other. I just love that click of like, oh no, I hate this person, but do I? Wait, what is this feeling that I'm feeling inside? And the next book that I want to mention is 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. Very quickly, this book is a YA sci-fi. It follows Margaret Kane as she is chasing her father's murder through multiple dimensions or alternate dimensions, parallel universes. This is part of a trilogy, and holy wow, do I love this trilogy. So while I find the idea of parallel universes, alternate dimensions very fascinating, what really caused me to love this book is the romance, of course. And the couple pairing in this one is Margaret and Paul. So Margaret Kane is the daughter of the two scientists who developed what is called the Firebird technology, which allows people to actually jump into these parallel universes, alternate dimensions. And when this book starts, she is chasing Paul, who turns out killed her father. And I know this sounds bad, but you've just gotta read, push through it. Things are not what it seems like. In particular, there are a set of chapters that take place in Russia, what is supposed to be modern day Russia, but if the Romanov family had never been murdered, if they had continued to be in power. These chapters were so emotional. Like, it is a roller coaster. It is during these chapters that both characters realize, oh, they like me too. So the feelings have already been there before the book starts, but it is only at this moment that they realize they actually have a shot with this other person. And unfortunately, I can't explain too much about their romantic situation because I would have to explain everything about the Firebird technology and more about the plot, which is not what I'm here to do. I guess essentially, even though Margaret is falling in love with Paul, there is this third person who is kind of making her question, who am I really falling in love with? But at the end of the day, I think the story in Russia, the romance that occurred in Russia was so beautiful, and it ends in such a tragedy, which breaks my heart. But at the same time, I think it's why it's such a beautiful love story. You know, tragedy and romance just always seem to go hand in hand. Next up, I have to mention Splintered by A.G. Howard. This is in Alice in Wonderland reimagining, and the couple in this book is Alyssa and Jeb, who have been childhood friends forever. They have seen each other through thick and thin, some really tragic incidents in their personal life. When Alyssa is dragged into Wonderland and forced to complete all of these super outrageous, potentially dangerous adventures, I guess you could call them. I don't know what word is the word that I'm looking for. Jeb automatically jumps in right behind her. He does his best to protect her as much as he can. Another kind of trope that I am a sucker for is the protector. You know, he is the big tough guy who is going to keep her safe, and I am all for, you know, female women being independent, sticking up for themselves, girl boss, but I personally have to admit that I always feel these little butterflies, you know, when someone does offer to be that protector in books, and Jeb really fulfills that trope. It is so beautiful to see how much he's willing and trying to fight for her. I absolutely love them. I think Jeb is just a teddy bear, like a ferocious bear when he has to be, but a teddy bear nonetheless. And last but not least, this list could not be complete without my original, my OG OTP, and that is Megan and Ash from the Iron Fae series. And now this is the Iron Queen, the third book in the original trilogy, even though technically it's 4 books, but nonetheless. If you can see over here in the corner, these are the new covers, very mature, very elegant looking, but something about this original cover, I know we all hate faces on books apparently, but something about this original cover always brings me comfort. This used to be, I would say, my favorite book of all time before I read You Deserve Each Other. This was the book. And the reason I decided to display the Iron Queen is because book 3 is really where Megan and Ash complete each other. It's where their romance peaks. There is a love declaration in here. Technically 2. There's one at the beginning where he, you know, promises to be there no matter what she wants to do. Mortal things that she wants to do. If she wants to get a license, if she wants to go to college, get married, you know, do the human thing. He's down for it, which always melted me. When I first read this book, oh, that was just beautiful. There is also another bigger declaration where Ash completely gives himself to her, and not in like a sexual way, but in a like declaration of, I am completely yours. I will live and die for you. And let me tell you, little junior high me was obliterated. Like, I was gone. I could not contain myself when I read that. I remember I would love to reread that declaration over and over and over again. As little junior high me, as cheesy or as corny as it may sound, I can't even talk, I'm so nervous. I think this gave me my first idea of what romance could be. Like, this is the reason why I was so delusional. I needed someone to be Ash for me, you know? If I can find it, I will link it down below. I don't even know if it still exists, but if I can find it, I will link it down below in case you're curious. I am actually in the middle of editing this video, but I realized that I deleted off of the SD card the clip immediately prior to this. I was basically talking about a very, very short story that the author released about Megan and Ash. It was a treat for Valentine's Day. It's about Megan and Ash's first Valentine's Day together. I basically tell you how over the moon I was, how much I loved that little short story, and I brought it up because obviously, you know, Valentine's Day was 2 days ago, but that's what I'm talking about. This series, this book, this couple will always have such a special place in my heart. I think it's a beautiful story, albeit a bit intense for who is supposed to be a 16-year-old in this series, but also a very pure and innocent one as well. Like I said, I read this when I was 14. I think it was a great first impression of love. Ash and Megan will forever be in my heart. And that's it to my favorite couples in books. I'm sorry if this was very rambly. I didn't really go into it with a plan. I just knew that I wanted to share with you some of my favorite couples. I also wanted to give you a little bit of backstory as to why, but I think that actually confused me and made me more rambly than usual. I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day, whether that was with a significant other, your friends, family, it all counts. Love is love. And that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. I will see you in the next video.